Hey, I'm James. I'm going to walk you through the roadmap to build a better product management career. It's the clearest path that I know to land a role that moves your career forward and not just sideways. I'm going to show you two things. First, the 3 outcomes that every PM needs to get on their journey and what that path looks like. And then second, the key areas of each and how to diagnose exactly where you need to focus to get where you want to go. I've done this for myself and hundreds of clients. Some product managers are at the next level, working in a new domain, some are leading large orgs at some of the best companies in the world, and some are creating the next unicorn startups. Now, I've worked with PMs for years, helping them move to their next role and building better careers. I've seen what works and what doesn't. So stay with me, and I'm going to show you how to apply it to your situation. Let's start by looking at career paths. I'm going to draw since it'll be easier to show you that way. Now, growing your career looks a lot like this when you're a product manager, right? Just going to draw a little triangle here. Okay, and let's add some levels. Okay, now, probably more so than other fields, there's different types of product managers, different skills, different types of products, right? But the same overall career ladder. At the start, right, you've got junior, or sometimes called associate, PM, or even PO roles. All right, this is where most people get started, or they've transitioned from similar functions into these early stage jobs. Now, at this level, you're probably helping another PM and learning from them, more than anything else. Then you've got PM and senior PM. Right, this is where nearly everyone stays for a number of years before moving up or just moving out. Next, you've got the principal level, right? Or sometimes called staff, or lead PM, right? Maybe you're line managing product managers, maybe you're not, and you're just super ICing it, as they say. Or you switch to that line management, and now this is normally called a group PM position, right? But what gets you here isn't exactly what will get you up here. Now, after that, you've been doing this for about a decade or so, you step into a director, maybe a head of, or even a VP level role, okay? And then finally, at the top, you've got CPO, okay? Or if you're gonna go to the startup route, you've got founder, right? You're leading the business or you're building it from scratch. So generally, right, it's a career path that goes up to the middle if you're going to stay an individual contributor or IC, or up to the top if you decide that you want to start leading people and that's your jam. Now, most people I work with, they're here in these two groups. Now, some I work with are also down here, and some of that I work with are up here, right? But moving up to each of these is going to require different skills than what got you to the level before. And this says nothing about the challenges that you're going to face when switching domains or switching industry or switching scale of business from startup to enterprise or the other direction, or even the type of product, whether it be SaaS or hardware or a very mature product versus something very greenfield. There's just so many different ways to do product management, right, that you're going to do. And then not every job is going to have you do them all. So to move up this path, you need to know what you're good at and where you need to get better. That's why a lot of people find the career path so challenging, right? You learn about all these different things, discovery, strategy, delivery, and then you end up in a role where you're doing a lot of one of those, but not the others, okay? So those are the career paths. But let me be clear about the goal here. I want to make sure that we're aligned on outcomes. The most important thing, my goal for you here, and if this isn't aligned, you should just click out of this video, go to somebody else. Right, my goal for you is to build a better product management career. Now, I've got another framework I'm going to use for this, just so that you can see it for yourself. I want you to feel free to follow along, or so get a sheet of paper or whatever works for you. Now, we're not just trying to get any job, right? We're trying to build a better PM career. Well, what's the difference? A job pays the bills. A career, it compounds. Better skills, better scope, better money, better impact. A job is what you do. A career is what moves you forward. The word career derives from a Latin word carus, I believe. Hope I'm saying that right, which means chariot. So your career needs to be about getting where you want to go. And here's what I want for you that's going to help you get there. Okay? 3 things. The first, right? We want more meaning. Okay? You want to create products that bring delight to people. Maybe that's why you got into this career path in the first place. Second, you want more money, right? So that you can enjoy the life that you want to live. And then third, you want greater impact, right? Making people's lives better, making people's jobs easier, right? You grow by winning. That's the goal. So here's the question for you. Like, does that connect for you right now? If more meaning, money, and impact is the goal, then this is a conversation worth having. Now look, as growing your career and navigating the PM job search continues getting harder, the payoff really needs to be worth it. So I want to talk about the problems that make it harder, okay? Every week I talk to product managers from all over the world who are looking to make a career move. Different levels, different domains, different backgrounds, same problems. In most cases though, right, they see their next career move involving a jump, to a new company. And here's what I found. Most PMs, they're stuck in one of 3 places, okay? So problem number 1, right? The role, it just isn't right. Maybe you landed a job, or maybe you got a promotion, but it's just no longer using your best skills. Or maybe the scope's changed, or it's just too narrow for what you can do, and so you're not learning. Or like maybe the money just isn't where it needs to be, and there's no realistic chance that it's going to get better in the next year. Okay, problem number 2. Okay, so if the role's not right, probably looking somewhere else. So then the problem becomes not enough interviews. You're applying, but you're not hearing back. Your CV or resume maybe isn't working, or you don't know. You got ghosted applications, you got auto rejections, right? Or maybe the LinkedIn just isn't getting you noticed. You're not getting any inbound. Or if you're conducting outreach, you're just not getting responses, all right? So that's problem number 2. And then problem number 3, say you're getting interviews, but they just aren't converting to offers. All right, so say you're getting those interviews, but just not making it to the offer stage. Maybe you don't have enough stories, or you're not prepared with them at all. Maybe your product sense interview skills are a bit rusty, or you've just never practiced. Or, perhaps you're just not presenting confidently. You're not showing up as the PM that, you actually are. Or you could just be terrified of those take-home tasks some companies do, and you just don't know where to start. There's a lot that can go wrong, but so much has to go right to land an offer. So those are the 3 problem areas that I see the most. Now, if any one of these is true for you, let's talk about the solution. Here's how this works. I want you to think of your roadmap to a better PM career across 3 outcomes, all right? The first, we want better role alignment, okay? You want to be clear about what you need in a role and how it's moving your career forward. Now, you're probably still watching this because what you're doing right now, it ain't it, okay? So this is an outcome that we want to get to. And in most cases, to get there, you're going to look somewhere else. So outcome number 2 that we want is to get more interviews. Specifically, we want interviews every week, right? We want to build consistency and momentum. Okay, maybe you're stuck here. Interviews come and go. Sometimes you go weeks without them, right? But this is where we need to get you so that you can get to outcome number 3, which is converting those interviews, right, into offers, right? Moving to the next round reliably, not losing out on offers because of your performance. Hey, real quick, if you've seen enough and you want to find out more about working together, just check the link in the description, or you can just send me a DM on LinkedIn with the word roadmap. All right, it'll be a way to tell me that you've seen this video, and I'll send you the details. Okay? All right, so those are the 3 outcomes. Next, let's talk about the different areas that you need working to get where you want to go. And we're going to go through each of these, and I want you to use a little traffic light system, okay? Green, yellow, and red. But let's start with the first outcome, okay? Better role alignment. Ultimately, okay, you need three things working. All right, starting first with your skills. Okay, you want to know the skills that you have, which you're great at, right? Where there's opportunity for growth. You want a role that leverages the ones that you want to use, right? But you also want to know which ones you're not good at that maybe you just need to get out of the way, right? Out of the way of getting you to where you want to be. So when thinking about maybe the role you're in, right? Does this role leverage your strengths and does it grow your capabilities? And how does that apply to maybe the next role that you're going for? So how do you rate yourself on this? Well, let's assume that you're green if you've mapped your skills to target roles, or you're closing gaps through deliberate practice in the role that you're in. You can confidently articulate your strengths, right? And these strengths, they'll show up in your artifacts and in stories that you tell, okay? Or consider it yellow if you do know your gaps, but you're not actively working on them. And then it's red, okay? It's red if you haven't assessed your PM skill gaps, or you've not identified areas of improvement. I want to tell you about a client of mine. This is Kavisha, all right? Super sharp, okay? So when we started working together, we focused on improving skills. And we were looking at what are the things that she's great at and what are the things that she wants to get better at. So we worked on this together for a few months and then she got contacted by another company. And so we pivoted immediately to focusing on, all right, how can we really lean into the skills you're already strong at and align that with what they're looking for? And we managed to have her jump 2 levels into a new position. And then we continued our work when she started at that position. And she managed to get great feedback from the VP of product and from the CTO talking about her onboarding experience being the best one that they've ever seen at the company. And this was because she focused on the right skills. Okay? All right, so what's next? Next, you have scope, right? Is the scope of this role bigger than your last? Does it expand your impact? Is the role like that you're looking for, is it going to expand the areas that you're responsible for? Okay? So consider this green if you have scope to grow, either in the role you have now or the role you're going after next. Maybe you're already operating at the next level to get promoted. Or you could be in a role where you're taking on more complex and important projects than you did last year. But let's consider it yellow, okay? If you might know that your scope needs to grow, but there's just not a clear path to get there, right? Call that yellow. Maybe you've talked to your boss about it, or maybe you haven't. And then let's call it red if you don't even know what the next level scope is. You haven't thought about it and are just waiting for it to magically happen. So I want to tell you about another client of mine, Hansa. We started working together when she was looking for her next role. And it was really important that she move into another leadership position that she could grow in, because she felt like at the last one that she had gotten to a leadership level, but the growth had stalled. Okay? So when she moved into this new role that we worked in getting her into, it was really important that she find a way to get in the room with the executives and show up as the person that they needed her to be, but also that she wanted to be. So now she's in a tribe leadership position. She's in regular executive level team meetings and really showing up as the product person that they need her to be, but more importantly, the product person that she wants to be to grow in her career. Okay? So then third, right? Let's just switch back to right color here. Third area, money, right? Is the compensation that you have reflecting the value that you bring, right? In the context of a job offer, is it moving you forward financially? So consider this green, right? Hey, you know your market value, you've researched comp benchmarks, and you feel confident about what you're earning, and you're ready to negotiate offers when you get them. We can call this yellow if maybe you have a rough idea of your target range, but maybe you haven't read up on negotiation tactics. Or let's say you're not happy with what you make now, but you're just not sure what to do about it. Then we can call this red, okay? If you're underpaid, maybe you don't even know that, or you don't know what your market rate is, and maybe you've never even negotiated a job offer before, or you think that because you're not currently working, you're not able to negotiate, which is wrong. You absolutely can, okay? So I want to tell you about another client here. I want to tell you about Prima. So we worked together last year, and we made sure we focused on communicating her value from the very start of the job process across all of her artifacts and her stories, down to the final level when it came to negotiation. We managed to negotiate multiple seven-figure offers from different companies, right? And now she's leading a team at a very well-known company back in the United States, like growing in her career and earning life-changing money, right? That's where I want to get you to as well. Okay, so that's role alignment. Let's zoom out a little bit, all right? If all three are green, you're in a role that genuinely moves your career forward. If they're not, then we need to focus on the other two outcomes to get you there. So let's move into getting more interviews. You need three things working, okay? First one's quite simple. It's just the CV or the resume, right? Is it getting you interviews? If it's not, it's broken. So how do we assess this, right? So if you're getting more than 10% conversion on your applications with your CV or resume, right, you can just consider that green. Now, if it's between like 5 and 10%, let's call that yellow. If it's below 5%, right, or close to zero, which for most people that reach out to me, that's where they are, we're gonna call that red, okay? So I wanna tell you about another client of mine. This is Desmond, also a super sharp guy. Optimized his CV to a point where he could get 10% or higher consistently. He had a system, right? He kept his top of funnel active. This meant that he knew no matter what happened, as long as he would just go and apply to 10 more roles a week, he'd be in a new interview process within the next 1 to 2 weeks, right? And that type of a system, that type of reliability and consistency in applying and getting interviews means you can continue to maintain momentum, okay? So despite what happens with certain interviews where things just kind of don't work out the way you want, when you're able to achieve this type of consistency on your application conversion rate, it's easier to move beyond any setbacks to know you're going to get into the next interview process. And now he's running the entire product function at a B2B startup. So it was great to sort of see that come to life for him. Okay? All right. What's next? Next we have your LinkedIn, right? Everyone's favorite professional social network. For this, are recruiters finding you? Are you getting inbound? Are people responding to your DMs? How do we assess this? Okay, so let's call it green if you're regularly getting inbounds, right? Or let's call it yellow. Maybe you're getting inbounds, maybe one over the last couple of months. And we're just gonna call this red if your inbox is a ghost town and you just don't hear from anybody at all, okay? And there's a lot that you could potentially do on your LinkedIn profile to move from red to yellow or from yellow to green. All right, so I want to tell you about another client of mine, Mina. She hadn't been getting outreach for months on LinkedIn, despite having a really good background in her field. The problem was that information just wasn't easy to discover about her on LinkedIn. So we optimized her profile together, and she's got multiple interviews via outreach now, really transformative, okay? So now she doesn't have to worry about LinkedIn anymore. It's good to go. Now she can focus on other problems that she has to solve on the interview process. Okay? And finally, we have outreach. Right? Are people accepting your connection requests if you're sending them? Are they getting on calls with you? Are connections helping you shortcut the application process? There's so many different benefits from doing outreach. It's got to be a part of your strategy. So here's how we're going to do the assessment. Consider it green if you've got a clear framework, you're sending connection requests, you're having chats with product managers and other people who are helping you. Let's call it yellow, okay? Oops. Let's call it yellow if you do reach out, but maybe you stop after a single message. And we're going to call it red if you're just not doing any outreach at all. All right? So I want to tell you about Simon here. He used a really unique approach when we were working together last summer. Landed a senior manager of product role at Pendo. And he took this unique approach when reaching out to people. He would get an interview for a company, and then instead of just focusing on people that actually worked there, he'd be looking for people who used that product and run mini discovery calls with them to understand what do they like about the product? What are some of the problems with that product? And he would use the output of those conversations and include it in the stories he would tell and the conversations he would have at these different companies. Right? So that was part of his effective outreach strategy. We worked together. We managed to get him 2 offers in less than a couple of months. So that's Simon. All right. So let's kind of zoom out on these. If all 3 are green, you're getting interviews every week. And if not, that's where you need to focus. And if this is a bottleneck for you and landing a new job is your top career priority right now, these need to go in the now bucket of your roadmap. Like if you're using the now, next, later roadmap from my friend Jenna, the CEO of ProdPad, founder of Mind the Product, right? Put those into that column. All right, let's move to the final outcome here, right? Converting interviews into offers. All right, let's go through the 3 things that you need working here as well. Number 1, your stories. You should be prepared with stories that demonstrate the impact that you've had. You want to deliver information clearly and concisely, at the right altitude and with confidence. You know the questions that you're likely to face. So how do we assess ourselves here? Well, consider it green, okay? If you have 20 structured stories, you know how to adapt them based on the question, and you know the right altitude based on the level that you're targeting. We'll call this yellow, all right? If you've got some stories, but maybe just the bones, right? Maybe you're still improvising some of the details, or you're just not sure if you're covering the right things. And consider this red if you're freestyling interviews. No written stories at all. You're just going in there and assuming that it's all up here and that's all you need. All right, so I want to tell you about another client. This is Andrew. We worked together on rebuilding his delivery and his story library. Managed to land 2 offers at once after being out of work for over a year. And that really was the main focus. He was getting into interviews reliably, but the stories and the communication, there was something wrong, right? And it was not a reflection of his skills or experience. It had to do with telling the right stories in a confident and clear way to show that he was able to do the job. And now he's been working in that new position for over a year and quite successful doing so. Okay? So what's next? Next, probably everyone's favorite type of interview, right? The product sense one. Can you handle product design, product improvement, product strategy, and metrics type prompts? Are you even familiar with what those are or how they're structured? Okay, so how do we assess here? Can you confidently tackle any type of product sense question? Okay, so let's call this green if you've got frameworks for all different types, you've done lots of practice, you're not going in there cold, right? You've already kind of built that muscle. You're ready to go through it. Let's call it yellow if maybe you've practiced, you've got a framework or 2, you're unclear sometimes about how to adapt it, but it's not your first time when you get asked the question. And we're going to call it red if you just have no frameworks at all, you've not done any practice, maybe you've never even done one of these types of interviews before, okay? As more companies are adopting these types of interviews, not just the FANG companies, right, but plenty of others around the world, it's really important that you have frameworks and you have preparation so that you're going in there clear and confident about what to do, okay? So I want to tell you about another client of mine. This is Pratesh. We focused on sharpening his product sense because he knew he was going to be going into those interviews, and that's where he was getting stuck, okay? He'd passed the behavioral interviews, but product sense, we identified that that's where the challenge was. That's where he wasn't making it past to the final stage. So we focused on doing these, practicing with frameworks, and he managed to land a role at a startup just a couple of months ago here in the UK. So that's Pratesh. All right? So then we've got the third and final area, okay? Talking about case studies, right? Sometimes also known as the take-home task. Do you have an approach to use for these? Sometimes you're going to have to come and present. Can you present as a confident and competent PM in panel interviews? Can you demonstrate what's called call control or show that you really know how to run a meeting? Because that's also being evaluated too in some of these interviews. Okay, so how do you assess yourself here? Let's consider it green if you've got a process. You know how to time box. Maybe you already know how to use AI to help shortcut the things that used to take a long time. Okay? Or consider it yellow if you're confident, okay? But it takes you a long time. You're still unsure when it comes to presenting a doc or slides or whatever format. And let's call it red if you struggle since it's maybe an atypical way of working. Maybe you haven't even had your submission make it past the screening stage. All right, so I'll tell you about another client of mine. This is Luke. We worked together on a case study submission for him for a role at Apple. Now, it combined two different parts. Like one was tell us about your favorite Apple product and why it's your favorite, but then also a hypothetical improving a product for Star Trek, right? Some specific product, I can't remember the name of it, but it was a really interesting exercise and something that managed to, help him get that role and move from a feature factory job to working at one of the best tech companies in the world. Okay? All right, so that's interviewing. Let's zoom out again. Now, if all three of these are green, you've got what you need to convert interviews into offers. You know that if you did earn a silver medal at the final stage, it's not because of your performance. Maybe someone just had something that you didn't, or the company changed their minds about what they want. These things happen, okay? But if you've got good coverage across these areas, you're going to get there. I promise you that. So those are all the problem areas to score yourself on, right? Let's just take a moment and make sure that you've got, green, yellow, or red for all 9, okay? So yellow, 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 yellow. And you've got red, 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 red. Then hopefully you've at least got 1 or 2, 3 greens, right? So now that you've scored yourself across all 9 areas, you've probably got some greens, some yellows, and some reds. But here's what I want you to do. I want you to circle the top 3 areas that would make the biggest difference if you fix them in the next 30, 60, or 90 days. Maybe it's your CV, your LinkedIn, and your stories, or maybe it's the outreach, the cases, and just knowing your skills, or it could be something else. But guess what we've just done? We've identified your constraints, the things that are holding you back from moving your career forward. And here's the good news, right? Behind each of these areas, there are proven systems, frameworks, and playbooks that you can use to fix them. Building a better product management career doesn't have to be some esoteric thing where you've got to read 1,000 newsletters or get advice from 100 different people. You just need to know where you want to go. You need the right tools with a plan to get there, and you need a way to get help when you get stuck. Now, if you want to find out more about how I can help you with any of these 9 areas, just check the link in the description. Set up time. I'll share a simple breakdown of how we work together. No high pressure sales call, just you and me talking about your situation and how I can help. Thanks for watching.